4 of which are joining us today. Jill Auditore, Patty Phillips, Everett Green, Sean Ewing, and Tim Bradley. Their dedication to the success of this program is very important, and they're committed to the success. I would also like to recognize the city staff that worked on this program and the many hours for this application. David Cheek, Chris Rollins, Cy Stober, and Ashley Omby. I would also welcome Sherry Adams and Chuck Hasel from the Main Street program today. Again, thanks for your attendance today, your interest in the program, your dedication to work together for its success. I would like to introduce our city manager, David Cheek, who will give us a brief recap of the plan, if he's on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Cheek is not able to join us this morning. I think he is having difficulties connecting, and he has asked me to represent the city with a brief presentation. Before I do so, Zoom, as we were discussing before the meeting with Sherry and Chuck, this is not an ideal venue for a kickoff meeting. We know that. We would prefer to have an in-person meeting, and we will have in-person meetings soon, very hopefully. That said, with Zoom, there are just a few things that we need to ask you to do to help this be a productive meeting. One is, if you have a question or a comment, we're happy. We've put those on the agenda. We're very happy for you to be involved as you would in a regular meeting. Please just raise your hands, and I will make sure as the host to respond to your request. You can also chat with me directly. That is an option. It's not the best option, but if there's something that's particular just to how you're accessing the meeting, you can chat directly with me. Please raise your hand to participate, just so that we can kind of manage the discussion and dialogue. If it is a group discussion, we'll be happy to open the venue for that. But the final thing is similar with the public hearings that we have. We do welcome all participants in Zoom, but similar to a public meeting, any disruption of the meeting we would like to minimize that, and anyone disrupting the meeting will be asked to leave if that is their sole intent. But we don't believe that will be the case this morning, but it does need to be set up front with these Zoom meetings. Again, not ideal, but we're doing the best we can, and we hope to meet in person very soon. So without further ado, I just want to recap briefly the work that the city's done on behalf of downtown. And this is not the work that downtown has done. That is a parallel narrative that needs to be discussed, and I believe we'll get to it as the program evolves. But I do want to talk about what brings us to here today and the efforts the city staff has made to bring us to this point. So the downtown that we're discussing is a bit different from the downtown that you all may be thinking of. It's the downtown that was addressed in the plan, the vision plan, and it extends from the community park to the old white furniture mill, which now hosts the lofts. It also extends south across the railroad tracks to the block, 1 block south of the railroad tracks, to include those buildings over there, including a number of civic buildings. And we'll talk about the reasons for that in just a moment. So why are we here today? It's because downtown is Mebane. It's prioritized throughout our plans. It's the historic core of the city, both culturally, socially, and economically. And it still continues to be our cultural center with a number of festivals throughout the year: Dogwood Festival, Autumn Fest, and the Christmas Parade, and so on. So, as well as a number of weekly or monthly pop-up events that are largely, almost entirely organized by the downtown community itself. So downtown Mebane has a number of resources here. We have historic buildings, we have civic services, we have a library that serves a larger community, the entire Alamance County community. It is a destination already, and we need to utilize those resources and really expand their appeal beyond just the business community. These buildings have been here a long time, and are attractants to children, seniors, and families, and we need to make sure that when they're here, they're going to go in and get something to eat, or they're going to, if they're coming to go to look for antiques, that they know that they have access to city services or some history in the city as well that warrants a longer stay. So recent investments in the downtown include over $11 million in the community park, which anchors the western end of downtown as defined in our plans. Sidewalks that have been completed from the downtown area to that park and vice versa, so folks can walk from the park to downtown without ever having to step on the road. Wayfinding signs throughout the city to direct motorists to downtown, visitors to downtown, including from the interstate corridor. Some bike boulevards to expand the transportation options for folks to access downtown. So not only do we have sidewalk options for folks who would like to bike, they can bike more safely around downtown. And the farmers market, which was relocated to its new location in the city parking lot in the hopes of bringing more visitors to that area, and we hope to make the Ruffin Street area of downtown and the North 5th Street area of downtown a hub of activity similar to what we've seen on Clay Street historically forever. However, there are needs, and we need to talk about them. There is a lot of competition from the I-40/85 corridor. There's a lot of retail along there, namely Tanger Outlets, and a lot of folks who just get off the interstate and get right back on. We'd like them to come into town, and this is a struggle that a number of Main Street communities have lessons that we can learn from. Salisbury would be a good example. They're also a county seat, which is their advantage, but they are in a very similar situation with I-85. Clayton as well. So there are communities we hope to learn from about how to draw folks to your downtown from the interstate, when the interstate has been developed as it should be according to our plans for retail and service businesses. We do have an underutilization of second-story real estate, whether it's for residential or office use. There's some building code challenges there, and we are hopeful to move forward in ways to provide resources to realize the use of second stories. And do want to acknowledge that the historic downtown has pretty much been from North 5th Street to North 2nd Street, and along Clay Center, and to a lesser degree Ruffin, but that the downtown plan calls for us to give attention to everything west of there to the new community park. There are a lot of opportunities to use a planner term, activate that space, to whether it's residential, commercial, mixed use. We have a lot of options, and we're not going to be prescriptive about what those properties have to be, but we do want to ensure that they'll be consistent with the downtown community, not disruptive, that they will have a similar appearance, that they will lend themselves to folks wanting to walk or even drive or bike to downtown from those properties, and that ideally that they will be part of the downtown community. We certainly can't put our sort of too heavy of a hand on that, but we can provide a lot of guidance and some ordinance requirements on appearance, on accessibility, and on consistency with the downtown community. And as I'm sure many of the folks on this call know, a lot of our newer residents, particularly those who live south of the interstate, are not as aware of downtown as they should be. And so we need to increase that awareness. As I said, this is a priority for city staff. This is the first page of our comprehensive plan. It features Clay Street, and you will see that repeated throughout our plans. Downtown is the #1 growth priorities growth strategy area in our plan. It is the focus of a number of our goals and objectives within our comprehensive plan, and continues to be an area that staff is directing energy towards, namely with this program, but as well with a lot of our review of other development projects, and trying to ensure that people will continue to come downtown, and that we are directing people towards there. A big step that the staff took was, and that the council took, was investing in a downtown vision plan. Many of you were on the coordinating committee for this downtown vision plan, so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but I just want to say that it is available on our website, an executive summary or the full plan. I know that some folks have been going into a lot of detail and reviewing it, and we'll be happy to continue those conversations, ideally through this Main Street venue, and make sure that your energy is recognized and rewarded, and that we can use your thoughts and through group discussion, make sure that we're putting this plan into action through consensus. So real briefly, generally, what does the plan do? It identifies historic properties recommended for preservation or restoration. It identifies redevelopment opportunities, provides us some guidance on form-based code, which I'll talk about real briefly in a moment, and identifies where downtown is, where some transition areas could be, to go back to single-family residential, which is the use immediately north and south of downtown as shown in this plan, but how we could give some folks some other options in those areas too for different housing types, to kind of go away from the denser core of downtown towards these more residential areas. You can see more of that here. And again, the downtown that is defined in the plan extends from the park to the white furniture building. And we do have a lot of opportunities for historic preservation, stories that are not well known about the histories of every single building downtown. And you all in the downtown community have done a good job of finding those histories, telling some of those stories, and we want to recognize that, and I think that would be a great story for visitors to know, when and residents for that matter, because I don't think many folks do. And then fully realizing the use of these buildings is another challenge. We've heard a lot from y'all that we want to deal with head on if we can, and try to make sure that all stories of these buildings are able to be used and expanded upon. So form-based code, you all may be familiar and working with or dealing with the planning department, that we talk a lot about zoning. Form-based code is not zoning. It actually removes a lot of zoning restrictions from properties and focuses more on how they look and the accessibility of those properties to the sidewalk and the street, and making sure that folks have an easy way of getting into storefronts or to their apartments or townhomes, depending on the building, and making sure that we are focused on a streetscape, that we're focused on an active community, and that we don't have a lot of parking lots for folks who come downtown, that they see a lot of stores, they see a lot of townhomes and or apartments, that they see a bustling hub of activity that is very welcoming for them to either pull up to or park in the parking lot and walk around, and that it's an easy place for them to do so. And then one thing I do want to make clear is that we cannot apply this to single family residences by state law. So that's just one thing. So there's some ideas in the downtown vision plan. Council was very clear in the motion they made that this plan is not prescriptive. It doesn't mean that everywhere the plan shows that there should be townhomes or live work units, that's where those will be, but they are more of a menu of options that developers could look at or property owners could look at when they want to redevelop their property as opportunities to kind of mix and match different ideas. And we're focusing more on the staff level on making sure this third bullet that we want new developments to look and feel like downtown. So where are we? I'm wrapping things up, which I'm sure is good news to you all. And I'll be happy to take some questions. I think that the city manager was able to join us. And I think the mayor may want to say something else as well before we move on. But we're in September. We are kicking off the program. This is our kickoff meeting. You'll hear more from the Main Street staff in a moment about what our schedule will be moving forward. But what I will tell you is that we'll be meeting regularly, and we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to convening a board and hiring someone to be the primary person for you to be working with. I will always be involved, and we'll determine more specifically what a downtown coordinator, what their role will be relative to myself, but you will always have access to me, and I will always be responsible for this program, as will the city. But if you need a point of contact, you've got me always. And then looking forward, we're hoping that we can look at some low-hanging fruit to invest in, and provided the economy continues to move forward in a way that's healthy, and we have our fingers crossed that things continue to do so. We will be hopeful that what you see in this timeline will be options available to the city within budget, as well as to yourselves. This has been a very hard summer for many of you, and I do want to recognize that. This is not a good time. This is a good time for this program to get going, though, in order to bring more customers, more visitors, hopefully more residents to downtown Mebane. And that's the intention of staff and the city, is to support the folks, support all efforts to do that, and support you folks who live, work, and want soon play once COVID allows downtown again. So I'm happy to take any questions at this time, and if anyone has any, before turning things over to the Main Street staff.
I have a question.
Yes.
What is low-hanging fruit that you made reference to in your last frame?
Those would be, the state has a term, high impact, low cost. So what are some easy projects that don't need a whole lot of engineering?
Okay.
That
Quick to
could be
develop.
done quickly. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Say, is there a list of those low-hanging fruit projects?
No, sir. That would be something we would hope that we would get direction from you all on as we convene a board. But we could also have a parallel discussion. Either we could have a discussion by a board or at a future meeting about what you think those could be. And we really appreciate your feedback on what that could be. Today, I don't think is the day for that discussion, but as you'll see, we do have an October meeting tentatively scheduled already. And we'd like to have that discussion with you all before Thanksgiving for sure. Mr. Mayor, did you have anything else to add, or did that chat come through a bit late from when you wrote
Yes,
it?
I would like two things. Thanks very much, Si. It was a tremendous presentation, and we are looking forward to the presentation by Main Street. I would like to recognize some other city staff that I failed to mention earlier. that participated a lot in making this program and working on this program. City Clerk Stephanie Shaw, IT Director Kirk Montgomery, HR Director Beatrice Hunter, Cy for sure, City Planner Ashley Omby, which I mentioned, and City Planner Aubrey Vogel also participated. And I just want to thank everybody that participated, and turn it back to you, Cy.
Well, if there's no more questions, I'll be happy to yield the floor to Sherry Adams and Chuck Housel with the Main Street program.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna start and say a few words, and I'm gonna hand it over to my colleague. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I seem to be have had some technical difficulties, but we are so excited to have Mebane into its Downtown Associate Community Program. You guys were selected.
Oh no. You're glitching, Sherry.
Sherry, I'm afraid we can't hear you.
You're glitching. Oh boy. She frozen?
Yes. So Chuck, she
So
just lost her connection.
we've lost Sherry. All right. This is something I'm kind of used to, because Sherry has the worst internet connection on earth.
Do you have a presentation? Do you have a copy of the presentation? Yes, Chuck?
I do have a copy of the presentation, so we can go ahead and get rolling with that, and we'll see what I see your message down there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this presentation up and I'll share it with y'all. I guess we'll see. We were going to kind of tag team this thing, but if she is completely
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
yes,
Oh.
we can.
Back? Okay.
Sherry, what I'm going to do is turn off your video, particularly since you're going to be presenting, and that may assist with the connection.
That'd be good. You can turn my video off anytime.
Okay.
Bye, guys. We'll put the
Are you going to try to share your presentation, Sherry?
Yeah,
Because you added some new slides to it.
I can. I did add a few slides, so let's see if I can put this on.
It's looking hopeful.
I'm sorry, folks. Bear with us. This is all new for everybody. And like
It is.
this Zoom stuff is a nightmare when it comes to these. It really is. I mean, it's useful. It helps. It's helpful in keeping the program rolling and stuff like that. But would have really been much more beneficial for us to have been in person for this first meeting, I believe. But we'll see how it
Yes,
goes.
ma'am. You are set. The screen is yours.
Sherry, you might want to try your headphones. Oh my.
This is bad, but I'm gonna turn it to Chuck. Just let him go.
Okay, are you able to advance slides or no? Because I obviously can't do that on your side.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll take them down. Can you hear me? No.
Yes. Okay.
Go, Chuck.
Chuck, why don't you go ahead and put up the presentation?
I'll go ahead and put this one up. Hang on 1 second. That's easy. Yeah. All right, can you guys all see that?
Yes. Yeah, if you want to go to full screen, you'll be all set.
Okay, there we go. So again, welcome to the kickoff, and I really wish we could be doing this in person, but again, please just bear with us with the technical difficulty. We'll get to you guys in person as soon as we are allowed. You guys are now part of the Downtown Associate community. What I'm going to do is we're going to give a brief overview of the program, and for all those in attendance, and we're going to cover the 4 points of Main Street and give an overview on those as well. And then, if you guys have questions throughout, you can maybe interrupt, and however, if your question's really pertinent, interrupt me. If not, just go ahead and save it for the end, and I'll be glad to address anything that comes up. But just to get us going here, we'll go ahead and start. Sherry had added these slides in. This is furniture in her home, I believe, and this is all from White of Mebane. So she wanted to share that with y'all. All right, so who are we? Let's see. We are the North Carolina Main Street and Rural Planning Center. We have 5 staff members for Main Street. You're dealing with 2 of us right now. We also have Liz Parham, which is our director, Naomi Riley, which kind of keeps everything in line there in Raleigh, and handles our websites and all the training, scheduling, and all that stuff. And we also have Vicki Deckel, who is our Main Street Solutions and Grants Administrator. We have the 8 planners in the 8 prosperity zones, and there's probably a slide that covers this a little more detail, but I hate reading slides, so I won't do that to you. I'll just talk, and you guys can read it if you want, or you can just listen to me ramble. But what we do is we provide downtown revitalization and planning assistance basically to anyone across the state. And the Main Street teams and the DAC, or the Main Street towns and the DAC towns, get the Main Street team, and the all of those towns and cities that are not in Main Street, they can be assisted at any level by our planning staff. We provide local and regional market analysis, and right now we're having a little bit of trouble with our retail market data. So we haven't found a really great source for that yet. So that's sort of on hold, but not really. So we can still do like demographics, things like that, tapestry sections, which kind of, what that does is it sort of shows you what, I guess, the typical type of person, that would be living in your area. It's actually pretty interesting stuff, and it's pretty accurate too, believe it or not. We can do small area plans, things like that. Obviously, downtown design services through our partnership with UNC Greensboro. And what we do is, with Main Street, this last line here, we provide economic development strategies with the context of historic preservation. That's kind of what our program is. It's economic development within the context of historic preservation. We want to preserve those historic properties first and foremost, and find new uses, and find, get them back to their period, their accuracy for their period. But, we also function as an economic development assisting as well. We are the coordinating program for Main Street America here in North Carolina. So that means we kind of oversee all of the communities that are in our program. I want to say there's 84 right now, including small towns. That number might not be quite accurate, but it's somewhere around there. I believe there's 65 full Main Street communities, about 14 small town Main Streets, and then right at the moment there are 7 towns in the with you guys in the DAC program. We do administer the grant program, which you need to be a Main Street community in order to qualify, but there's no money in that pot right now, so that's kind of that's a hopeful for the future. What do we do? Our goals are to inspire placemaking and achieve measurable results, basically. Any of the strategies that we put forth, or that we recommend, or that the community comes up with, measuring these strategies and measuring their impact is one of the most important parts of this program, because it also helps it helps us tabulate our numbers, our historic numbers, and you'll see a slide on that in a little bit as to the investment that this program has created in the state over the years. These are the 8 prosperity zones that I was talking about earlier. We do have a planner stationed in every one of these areas. Sherry is actually based in Asheville out in the Northwest, or no, is she in the Northwest? No, I guess that would be, she's Western. And myself, I am based in Greenville, so I'm a lot closer to you guys, but you know, again, we're not traveling, so that doesn't really make a difference. We're as close as internet can get us. But those are the areas in you know, which we break down. Like I said, there's planners in all those areas, and Sherry and I pretty much go to that entire area. This is a list of our current Main Street programs. Excuse me, mouth's getting a little dry, talking too much. So again, there are 67 main streets. They're in blue. There are 14 small town main streets, or no, 13 now, because we did have one drop out, I'm sorry. 13 small town main streets. And we have the 7 downtown associate communities. And you can see that we're scattered pretty much throughout the state. Your area right there in central North Carolina, you have a lot of Main Street communities right next to you. So that's really good to kind of get an idea, I guess, of, you know, what it is that this program can provide, you know, because you have a lot of your neighbors are either in this program or going through it at the same pace as you. Graham is about, I would say, 4 to 6 months ahead of you, but you guys are kind of, you know, in the same playing field, if you will.
And Chuck, could you just briefly, and this might be unfair to you, Burlington and Elon both have programs. How long have they been in the program?
Oh, let's find out.
Well, I know Elon was just admitted this year because it was very exciting for them.
Yeah, Elon is relatively new, and
so they just completed the DAC program that we're beginning today.
Yeah, 2018 Elon came in, and where's Burlington at? Sherry would probably know. They were kind of early on. There we go. 88 was Burlington. And did you mention another one?
No, those
Okay.
are the other 2 near us.
So 1988 for Burlington, and Elon was just a couple years ago. So, and again, you guys are going to have a nice little concentration of, you know, hopefully cooperation between those programs right there in Holmes County. All right, so the DAC program, we kind of lie to you and say that it's a 2 to 3 year process. It's mostly going to be a 3-year process. And the reason it takes 3 years is because we want to make sure we build that organizational foundation really strong, so that when Sherry and I step away and take the training wheels off, so to speak, that everything stays as it was, and, you know, can function and move on towards, you know, better things. This is the only way, this DAC program right now is the only way into the North Carolina Main Street program. So you basically have to go, you know, put up with us for 3 years, and then we cut you loose, and, you know, we'll always be there to assist you and help you go and, you know, revamp your plans and do anything else that you need. But the first 2 to 3 years is kind of a hand-holding process. And for Sherry and I, really, it's mostly at 2 years, because the 3rd year we kind of let you on your own and see how it kind of works out. And, you know, if you need us help, you know, if you need help, call us. And if not, we would touch on you, you know, a little less frequently as far as our meeting schedule for the prior 2 years. But you know, we will never leave you alone out to dry. So, brief history of the Main Street. Again, we were one of the first states to start this program. We were one of the original 6 states. It started in 1980. Our first communities, New Bern, Salisbury, Shelby, Tarboro, and Washington, are all still actually in the program and doing pretty well. But those programs they're 40 years old, and you know, you can tell that if you go to Salisbury or New Bern, or, you know, even Washington at some point. You know, sometimes Shelby's really nice too, but you can really tell that this program has made a great impact on their downtowns. And just Main Street, over 46 states and over 2,000 communities are involved. Again, I said this before, Main Street is economic development within the context of historic preservation. We have great partnerships with the National Trust, and that's actually where the program began, was a kind of a spin-off for the National Trust. So we're all just, you know, we have a great partnership with them in historic preservation of, you know, your historic structures is one of our, you know, main goals of this program. Here's the numbers I told you about. And I don't know if you can see my little people thing here, but I can't get it out of the way. So we have $2.5 billion in public and private investment, almost 6,000 buildings renovated completely, almost 6,000 facade improvements, almost 5,500 businesses, and almost 23,000 jobs, full-time and part-time. And this is since 1980, and this is the cumulative impact of North Carolina Main Street and small-town Main Street. But over 40 years, that's a heck of a lot of investment that has happened in these communities. So this program works. Talk a little bit about the 4-point approach. So you'll hear us talk about the 4 points all the time. Organization, that's the main one. That's the key one. That's the one that's the most important when we start to get these programs rolling. What that focuses on is your human and financial resources. And this organization is the one that's going to go out and reach out and build the partnerships, create a lot of the buzz around the program. And I'll get into each one of these a little more detailed as we go through. Promotion is exactly what it is. It's promoting your downtown, it's selling the positive image of your downtown. And you do that based on your unique assets of your downtown, because while you have all those neighboring communities that are in the program, only Mebane is Mebane. So you have things that are completely unique to your town, whereas other towns do not. So that's what separates you from your neighbors. Design focuses on a lot of what it looked like your downtown master plan was kind of focused on, just the physical aspects of downtown, the buildings, the structures, the bike lanes, things like that. Anything that's really in your public realm, park benches or benches on the sidewalk, anything like that all falls under design. And economic vitality is a lot of, you had mentioned something earlier that sounded a lot like an economic vitality role, and I can't remember exactly what that was, but what economic vitality does is it kind of focuses on, your uses of your buildings to see if there's any, better or higher use that could be used. The second floor residential, that's going to fall under probably economic vitality. And what that works on is trying to have your economic base being as diverse as possible, so that when a COVID or God knows what comes next, firenadoes, who knows, whenever the next thing comes, that your economy is willing or able to take a little hit and not worry too much about it. There are 8 principles, and I'm just going to bring these all out because I hate this thing when it does that. It's comprehensive, which means it's going to take all of downtown, and it's going to take a large team effort. And it focuses on all of downtown in every aspect of it, based on those 4 points. Builds on your current assets, the great characteristics that are in your downtown that are unique to Mebane, like that fantastic hamburger that I showed earlier. That could be an asset. Focus on quality rather than quantity. You had mentioned some of the low-hanging fruit projects, and those are great. But make sure they're quality projects and not just something to do. Change. This program is about change. You wouldn't be in the program if you didn't feel there was some kind of need for change or some greater. I guess I don't even know what like a greater use or definition for your downtown. It's about implementation. It's about actually putting these plans to work, and I'll discuss those plans probably at a later time. I'm not going to get too much into the actual plan, the work plan this time, but it's based on the implementation of the plan. And one thing everybody really tends to forget, and I try to emphasize this every time we go into these communities, especially ones that are just starting off, whether it's a new program, a new director, whatever the case is. This change is going to be incremental, which means it's going to be slow, which means you have to have a little bit of patience. And over time, 10 years from now, the difference between downtown Mebane today and downtown Mebane in 10 years from now will be drastically noticeable. But you might not notice it happening as it's happening, because it's going to happen kind of slow. This program is a self-help program. Like I said, the Main Street staff is here for you anytime you need us. But really, this is going to be about the local folks on the local level really getting after it and making things happen. And again, you couldn't do a lot of this program without partnerships. Partnerships are hugely important as far as getting a lot of these projects, getting the support, things you need, whether you're talking volunteers for a festival or an event, or whether you're talking about your local financial institutes, maybe putting some money in for redevelopment of buildings, anything like that. These partnerships are core to this program. So organization, we'll touch on this a little bit. Excuse me. Rona, is that you? We're building financial and human resources and through the partnerships that I was talking about. So they kind of create the partnerships, they go out and seek the partnerships. The organization is the base of your program. And everything is gonna kind of reflect back to that common vision. Oh, geez, sorry. I don't know if you're seeing that come through or not. Why won't this work? Okay. Basic areas for focus of an organizational committee is you plan for the downtown success, of course. Managing the program is big, and promoting the program. And now I will touch on this real quick now, because promotion, you have a whole point that's dedicated to promotion, but it's a different kind of promotion. The promotion that the organizational committee needs to focus on is promoting the program, saying, making a big deal out of, the small successes that the program has, telling the story of that program, and telling the story of your downtown. This right here is just a snapshot of, where those responsibilities fall. And I'll let you guys look at that real quick. I'm not going to read all that to you. But again, the three main parts are at the top, and you can see all of the things that kind of entails as far as the organizational piece. Promotion. Now again, this is not necessarily promoting the program. What you're doing with the promotion committee or the promotional actions and things like that, you're selling that positive image of downtown based on the assets of the community. And now I've always used this example. So I live in Greenville. Greenville, about 5 years ago, there was an area in Greenville that went through some pretty drastic redevelopment. Some old buildings were refurbished, some tobacco warehouses were torn down and other buildings put up. But anyway, this district, it's called the Dickinson Avenue area. It was one of the most terrifying places 10 years ago in Greenville. You would not want to be there. You wouldn't want to go there. If you broke down, you would run really fast, as far as you could, quickly from there. So their tagline, and this goes back to selling that positive image of downtown. About 5 years ago, I heard on the radio, it was the tagline, "Come enjoy downtown Greenville and Dickinson after dark." And I'm like, what? No, are you kidding me? But now, honest to God, it is the coolest place in town to go. It is completely safe. There are so many flourishing businesses down there, a fantastic brewery. It's the only place I'll go in town now. It's just a great little district, and they did that through hammering that positive image. And sure enough, you talk about it enough, it happens. So it happened. Other things promotion will focus on, some of the typical things that you might think. We have the image building. Then we also have retail promotion. So that's working with your local businesses to come up with different promotional events, different ways to bring folks into their stores. And of course, your special events. Doesn't necessarily, special event development, you probably have some special events now. You may or may not want to keep them, with the house within that Main Street area or that Main Street side of things. But that's kind of the role of this promotion thing. And the goal with the big events is to just get bodies to your downtown, get people there. So here's the snapshot for the promotional point. And again, I'm not going to read all that to you guys. Please read it and take a look at it. And this presentation's available too. And if you need any of this information, please feel free to reach out to us, and I'll be glad to send it all to you. But so again, image campaigns. So we've got the downtown branding and everything that's kind of associated with that, websites, things like that. Retail promotion. So that's in order to bring people into the businesses to get them to buy something. And then we have the special events, which is just to basically introduce people to your downtown. Design, again, this is the physical attributes. Well, actually, Sherry, are you good? You just want me to roll? She probably can't hear me anyway.
Can you
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Is
Is
it
it echoing?
Yes. Yes, it's echoing. I could just keep rolling if that's easier.
You're doing a great job.
Okay, I don't even know what you said. But I'll just keep going with this. We were going to split this. Usually we do a little tag team so everybody doesn't get too sick of hearing one of us talk. But since we're having technical difficulties, you guys are stuck with me. Anyway, design, again, this is everything in the physical aspect of your downtown. This is your awnings, this is your window displays, this is your garbage receptacles, your sidewalks, your crosswalks, your street lighting, your trees, anything you can think of that you can see physically downtown is going to fall under this design piece. 5 basic areas of focus. We got obviously your buildings, displays, whether that's window displays or public displays, anything like that. Your streetscapes, your sidewalks, your trees, things of that nature. Signage, your wayfinding signs, things of that nature will fall under design. And public spaces, if you have any little pocket parks or little gathering spots or something like that, that would also fall under the design realm. So here's the snapshot for that one. And again, it breaks down to the 5 main focuses of the design point. And you can feel free to read all that. I'll leave it up there for a second while I ramble. So pretty much, again, anything that you can think of that's going to fall under a physical thing that you can reach out and touch and see in your downtown is going to fall under this design umbrella. Economic vitality. This one is the one I said it focuses on your existing assets, your economic assets, and works to kind of diversify that economy so that, if one industry falls, there's 5 others that can pull it back up. We like to see a lot of diversification, not only in your budget for your program, but in your actual downtown area. And for example, if you just take a look at Burlington and what happened when LabCorp pulled out. So their economy was not very diversified. LabCorp pulled out and they had a bunch of empty buildings downtown. So that's kind of what we're trying to look to avoid. Areas of focus for economic vitality, obviously understanding your current economic conditions, help working with your existing businesses to help strengthen them. Finding new economic uses for buildings. Now, whether that's second-story residential or what have you, maybe one of those deals where it's kind of subdivided inside, like a little business starter place. I can't really, for whatever reason, it's early. I haven't had enough coffee, so I'm not thinking of the word that I'm thinking of for that. But you know what I mean. You go in and there's like a bunch of little businesses inside one building, something of that nature. Develop a lot of financial incentives and capital for rehab. So it would be good for this committee and folks on this committee to have kind of some knowledge, maybe state tax rehab credits or rehab tax credits, something of that nature, maybe bankers, anybody in the financial institute would be probably a good person to be sitting on this committee. And they monitor and evaluate basically the economic performance of downtown. So again, here's your snapshot of that. Again, I'm not going to read it, but feel free, and I'll leave it up for a second, and then we will move on. So what are the benefits of your program right now to where you are? Well, it's a partnership, and Sai, you may have had a little bit of experience with this now already, just from the Main Street Forum and things like that, the partnerships and the networking that you can develop throughout the other communities that are involved in this program. It involves specialized training. So the directors whoever is the director of the program for now will be Sai. You will have to run through all of our, basically all of our specialized training programs. It is a requirement that they be all taken care of before you're promoted up to the Main Street status. So we don't bombard you too hard. There's like 4 a year, and then some other requirements that we have, but it's not too terrible. It's usually actually pretty fun when we get to go and do it in person, and you get to actually meet your colleagues and go have lunch with them, and it's usually actually a pretty good time. Plus, you get to learn a bunch of stuff. It includes technical assistance, which means basically me and Sherry we will come and help you get everything kind of worked out into a plan, into bite-sized chunks that you can actually achieve. And again, networking with other downtown professionals, whether that be other Main Streeters or other folks, and wish that would stop popping up. Other folks even within your downtown, because they would be downtown professionals too. So you kind of get the whole gamut of folks and get them all on the same page. And what we do with you guys is we work to create a 5-year downtown plan. And when I say a 5-year plan, it's going to include an economic positioning statement, which is sort of like a vision statement. It's going to include a mission statement for your organization. It's going to include economic development strategies, which come straight from that economic positioning statement. You'll probably have 2 or 3 to focus on and start with at the onset. And as you develop in the program, you can do more or less however it works out. But we'll probably get you going for the first 5 years with 2 or 3 achievable goals. And again, we'll get much more into this 5-year plan as we go through. I'm not going to get real into it right now. But what this helps to do is create a solid, sustainable program, and that's really what we want to make sure is that after 3 years, when we step away, that your program is able to be up and running. Let's see, requirements and responsibilities. Well, you guys have met all these apparently because you're in the program. So you got to be incorporated. Got to have less than 50,000 folks living there. It's got to show broad support for the program, and again, you must meet these the requirements, but that we put on you. A lot of it's that checklist that I'm sure you've seen, but by the end of that 3-year period, you will become a designated Main Street community, and at that time, you will be available, or you will be eligible to receive design services from University of North Carolina, Greensboro. You'll be able to receive any Main Street Solutions money, if there is any by then. Hopefully there will be by 3 years. So it comes with a bunch, and you become eligible for awards and Main Street awards and things like that, and potentially being accredited after the first full year in the program. So there are a lot of benefits that come with the program. So basically what it's going to look like for the next few months, we kind of have a tentative schedule kind of pulled out already, or at least our next meeting tentatively scheduled. Each one of these meetings, and again, we would usually do this in person, but we will try to do this as efficiently as possible over this platform. We have a public educational component, which, and when I say that just basically means we're going to touch on those 4 points, and we're going to get a lot more detailed on those 4 points than I just did right now. What you got was a really quick overview. What you will get as part of this public educational component will be a little less than what you get in our Main Street trainings, but it's going to be pretty comprehensive, and it'll be a lot more detailed than what we just did. 6 visits per year. I'm not 100% sure where that goes as far as visits per year, because with this virtual platform, we can certainly meet more frequently than we could if we were out road warrioring. Is that even a word? If we were out being road warriors like we usually are, because it takes a lot of time to drive places. Your asset mapping, this is all going to come out in some of the facilitations that we'll do, probably starting with our next meeting. We'll take asset mapping, and basically what that is like anything that's considered an asset that's unique in Mebane. Your economic driver identification, and that's going to be for like a broader area than just downtown, but that's why do people come to that area? What do they come there to do? Why do they come there to live? Why do they come there to work? You know, what are your big economic drivers? Stakeholder and partnership identification, that one's going to be mostly on you guys, because you know most of your players that are close, that you know are going to help out with this program, or people that may get excited about it and want to really participate. That's where we're going to identify all that. Everyone in the community, everyone really in the county is a stakeholder in the success of downtown Mebane, because what the downtowns are the heart of the community. So if you have a successful downtown and a strong, healthy downtown, the rest of the community is generally going to be pretty strong and healthy as well. A SWOT analysis, that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We'll run you guys through one of those exercises, and that helps us develop the action steps for our work plan that we will get to in time. And we will set up benchmarks and you know, timelines as far as, you know, where you should be at 6 months, where you should be at a year, where you should be at 3 years or 2 years, moving on into the program. Whew, okay, exhale. Anybody have any questions? Be very glad to answer them. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen unless Sherry wants me to do something.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Chris, for your tips. I thought I'd done those earlier, and I just love putting Chuck on the spot. Thank you, Chuck.
Well, it's a good thing, Cherry, that we can do this in our sleep, you know, and don't really have to stress.
Right. I'm in the West, he's in the East, but we are a team, and thank you guys for your patience this morning. Chuck and I both do these presentations so much together that we do know each other's work pretty much by heart, and I really appreciate him taking over my 2 segments on that. Yes, you did see some of my furniture in my house long before I ever knew of Mebane. I had an opportunity to purchase some furniture from my aunt's estate, and I was running that, you know, whether it's 1984, to spend $1,600 on 4 pieces of furniture. And this lady at a furniture store, she says, "What? They're white of Mebane? You need to buy them. That's quality furniture." So you guys have had this wonderful asset in your town, and, you know, have continued to use that to your advantage. So when we do asset mapping, absolutely that will come up. But want to say, Cy, earlier in your presentation, I wrote this down. It says Cy will always be point of contact and always involved. So I've written this down, so want to make sure that Cy is good to his word. But thank you, Mayor, and everyone else that's involved with getting Mebane on board. From 2000 to 2005, I spent 5 years working with Burlington, and I was telling the group earlier, I said, folks would come into my office all the time and go, "Have you heard what Mebane's doing?" You know, it's a group of volunteers already in your downtown that were working toward what you all have already achieved. And what Chuck and I plan to do is we come, and we're, as much as we facilitate, we listen, we guide, we set you up with the Main Street program and following the outline of this program, since it is a national program. And it has been this way. I started working with downtown organizations in 1990 at the local level. And the 4 points are, as Chuck likes to say, the pillars. They are the pillars for this program. And you are already on your way to success. The thing that we're going to do over the next few months is try to help you establish a very sustainable downtown organization, help you establish, and when I say funding, we at this state, sadly, we don't have funds to establish your program, but help you figure out how you're going to, A, fund this position, and then fund the projects and programming you want to put in place. I may have missed it earlier, but Chuck and I always say that this program was founded under the National Trust for Historic Preservation. So we firmly embrace that historic aspect. It is economic development within the context of historic preservation. So everything we do, we look at it with an eye of protecting the historic aspects of your town, which already it looks like you have done and are doing. We just want to emphasize that that is what makes Mebane authentic. That is what keeps you all from looking like any other place. You know, the Tanger outlets are a wonderful economic driver for your community, but drop in anywhere you don't know where they are, because a lot of that on the interstate looks the same. But your downtown is what makes you authentic. It is what makes people want to move there. And we're just thrilled that you, Mayor, and the council have decided that downtown is a priority. So that's my few words. You know, I have to talk a little bit, so I'm glad we've got the audio. I guess we're at the question and answer period. And again, thank you, my colleagues, for making that lengthy presentation. The questions, thoughts?
Anybody? Bueller?
I would ask you to
Right.
raise your hand if you have a question, just if you can do that. If there are a number of questions, I want to just try to keep everyone in order and be fair. Okay. Councilwoman
Mary.
Auditor. And then I saw Mary, if you're second.
So I'm up.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I know you said that we are looking at another meeting in October.
Mhm.
Are there any more immediate next steps that will happen between now and then?
That's a great question. So one thing that we're doing at the staff, two things that we're doing at the staff level in planning is that we are, the first thing we're doing is, there's a larger context for this, but we are beginning to draft some changes to the ordinance that won't come to planning board or even the public view until late winter, and then come to the council as part of a larger package in late spring. So that's 6 months out, but we're working internally to begin doing some of that work. We've also been directed at the staff level by Sherry and Chuck and Naomi to begin our downtown inventory. So that's going into the tax records and evaluating all the properties, as well as taking photographs. So if you see us out there with an iPad, that's what we're doing. We're not casing your joint. We are just taking, and there's a key to this, and COVID's actually helpful in this regard, unfortunately, is that it needs to be an unobstructed image. So no car in front of the building. They need a clear shot, and this will longer term possibly or will be helpful if any of these structures would be considered for a facade improvement and assistance in that. So those are the two things right now that staff are doing. I'll defer to Sherry and Chuck on the timing of this, but we do need to begin convening a board, at least for this first year or two. And I think there's nothing holding us back from beginning to do that. We do need to, they've strongly encouraged us to keep our board to about 9 folks, possibly a little larger, but not much larger, simply because if you have a board larger than that, you can't get business done. It's just too big, similar to a council or an advisory committee. And there will be opportunities for other community members. There'll be several committees addressing those 4 points, and the committees will subsequently follow over the course of the next year or two. So if the board doesn't seem to be the right fit for somebody, maybe one of the committees would be, and vice versa. If you're on the board, you have no obligation to necessarily be on a committee. But Sherry and Chuck, when would you advise begin recruitment for a board?
I would start looking for your advisory board today.
Okay.
Because if we're going to be meeting again in October, we would like to have those folks in place so that we can get right to the meat of the facilitation stuff with with the asset mapping and the economic drivers. Okay. And kind of walk. Yeah. That's going to be the group that's going to walk through the process like with us. That's going to come here and sit on a Zoom call for an hour and a half rather than just come in for the public portion. They'll actually be the ones working towards developing this plan or this your program basically. So we will have that call out early next week, Monday, Tuesday next week, and you heard it here first.
that we are recruiting the board.
Yeah, we do encourage that, size to go ahead and select your folks. And when we do this monthly or every other 6 weeks or however we decide to set it up, I think I've sent you a schedule. We do a public portion, and we do encourage the public to participate as much as they can with that. But then your 9 core members will be given some tasks in between meetings to take on.
And I will send out that schedule to everyone who received the email or indicated an interest, so that you know what the schedule will be, at least tentatively. It could be subject to change on availability, but this is a tentative schedule for the coming year through July 1st. And so you'd know what you'd be getting into just in terms of a time commitment. Ms. McFarland, you have a question?
I do. It's more of a comment of saying, I'm from Salisbury, and I was there when they first started this program, and it has made the biggest difference in my hometown. And I'm just thrilled that the city and the staff, we're in it. We've already done a lot of this work. I mean, I was just sitting here checking off, our signatures, our signage, our pocket parks. I'm excited. I think this is wonderful. I appreciate the community. I love Mebane. Y'all know I love Mebane. So I just wanted to say thank you for Chuck and Sherry for coming on board and being with us in this process, because we have a lot to offer, but more importantly, we have a lot to protect. And that's our downtown, and develop it properly. I liked the idea of not just doing something to be doing something. Those little fruit things that I questioned about before. I think that's a very good point that Chuck made. We need to be specific on what we do and how we do it. And this Main Street program will be someone from outside who has our concerns, on our side for our concerns, giving us direction. So I'm just excited. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you, Mary. I got to play the name game. Did you know Mr. Jim Dunn in Salisbury? Oops, you're muted. You're muted.
I found the button. I do know of Jim Dunn. Yes, I've been away from Salisbury for many years, but it's still close and true to my heart. My father was downtown Penny's manager for years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know a lot about Salisbury, and I've seen a lot of positive impacts in other communities in the state from this program. So yeah.
Well, that's good to hear, and thank you for acknowledging that success that Salisbury has had. And you guys are, as you said, you've already checked off a good many things, but and this program will just build upon those things that you've already done.
Yeah. Good job.
All right. Are there other questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, agree.
Okay. First off, thank you, Sherry and Chuck, for giving us this opportunity and making this presentation. I had one comment and then maybe a question or two. As I was scrolling through all the people that are here, I noticed that there might be some important people to downtown missing today. So if there's anybody that may have been excluded by accident, mistake, what have you, I personally know that I had to forward the email to a fellow attendee this morning for whatever reason. He didn't get it. So I just want everybody to please spread the word. Make sure to include anybody in any kind of communication from SI that may want to be involved. Just like Chuck said earlier, we need the support of the entire community. It's not just building owners and business owners, residential neighbors, employees, anybody that just frequents downtown and wants to continue to support downtown. So just please spread the word and make sure that everybody that wants to be included is included, because we need as many voices as possible to be heard to make sure that this is a positive and successful program for downtown. With that being said, Cy, you had mentioned that as well as the board, there will be other committees.
Mhm.
So it sounds to me like the committees and the board may overlap, but you don't necessarily have to be on the board to be on a committee or vice versa. Is that
That's correct.
I'm okay.
Mhm.
Because I know that maybe there might be some community members that, maybe don't make it to the board, but they still have the opportunity to be on a committee, or as you mentioned, any public forums for feedback, that would go to the board. So I just wanted to
One
make sure.
thing I will add, Sugary, is that it would be important for that any committees to, if they don't have a board member on them, to have somebody to communicate with the board.
Okay.
That's not staff. That's not city staff. So as the program evolves, as it moves forward, that communication is really going to need, and the entire program is going to need to be, thriving on its own, independent of staff support from the city. And certainly the coordinator is going to be critical to all of that. But that communication should go through the coordinator, but also should be incumbent upon the members themselves too. And that'll all be determined through discussions, through setting some ground rules at the initial committee meetings and so on, about who's going to be in charge of communicating with the board.
Okay. And then one hopefully quick question. What exactly, since since you're going to start forming a board, what exactly are the qualifications? Is there an application? What is the process to that? Has that been discussed in detail?
Not in detail, no. We have a lot of guidance from the Main Street program with regard to board makeup, making sure that, as they said, we bring a number of different skill sets to the board as well as histories, so that we can make sure that we're checking all the boxes we need when it comes to those different elements of the 4 points. So that has as much to do with historic preservation or historic recognition as it does to do with the economic vitality and really having a keen eye for the financial needs of individual property owners as well as downtown as a whole. So we'll be seeking their guidance on how we convene a board if we get more than 9 applicants, but we do have an application form. We'll make it available. I'd like to, right now it's not a smart PDF, so I want to get that tweaked Monday before I send out the invite, but we'll be using the standard city application form, which we use if you apply for Board of Adjustment or Planning Board or Bike and Ped Committee.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam Powell, yes.
Good morning. My quick question was for Chuck and Sherry. Just what are some of the things from your experience have made strong Main Street program coordinators in the past?
Versatility.
Yeah.
They got to be able to think on their feet and go quick. Go ahead, Sherry. I'll let you go ahead. You take that one.
I was just going to say, years ago when I started out in this program, I knew absolutely nothing about Main Street before it became, what it is today. And I think one of the most important things is to have someone that is willing to be flexible and learn this if they don't already have some experience in Main Street. If you can find somebody with experience, that's great. But I also encourage you to look at someone who is may not be an expert in all the 4 points, but at least knows something about the Main Street program, and you feel like is a good has good personal skills that can talk with people and be a good moderator and listen to both sides. Being a good listener is a good quality in a director too. But how to bridge both the public-private partnerships.
Right.
Chuck, anything else to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and like when you actually go to look for that director, don't get too hung up on a specific education type, like BS in planning or this or public administration. That doesn't necessarily have to. It really doesn't apply. There's no degrees in Main Street. So we have a lot of folks that are really good directors that there were communications majors or English majors or, something else in school. So don't get too hung up on a specific exact education requirement. It's more about the person and their personality than it is, what they were taught in school.
That's a good question though, Adam. Thank you.
Sai, as I look at my screen, the functionality disappears on the outside of it. I don't know if everybody on board is familiar with Zoom. I see a lot of folks that don't have their video on where you can't physically see their hand raised, but if you touch your screen, as if it's an iPad, you'll see some of that functionality pop back up, or if you move your mouse, and there should be a hand that you can touch that'll raise your hand where you don't have to visually see somebody's hand get raised if you would like to speak.
Or I want to make sure everybody has a chance to ask a question. So I appreciate everyone who's raised their hand, but I don't want anyone to walk away today without having a question asked or a comment heard. So please, I guess it's an open invitation to potential chaos, but go ahead and speak up at this time. I think this also lends, I want to follow up on Sugary's comment because I really do appreciate it. And I guess I thought about it a week ago and then it went away. But I think it bears further discussion and that we need, that should be recognized, is that I'm doing my best, the city's doing its best with this meeting. We don't have everyone's email or contact information at this time. We need that. We need your help in getting that. When I went around to each storefront earlier this week, I got a few new cards. I'll be adding those folks to the list. But I still don't have every property owner, business owner, resident, and then, perhaps future resident or future business owner, someone who lives immediately around downtown, or somebody who lives in one of our new subdivisions, like the villages at Lake Michael, who would like to be involved. So, and one thing I wish that I had done today, and I'll acknowledge this now, and we should do it next time, is recognize everybody who's on the call. I don't want to drag out the call by doing a roll call today unless it seems to be in everyone's interest. But we have multiple elected officials on this call. We have many long-serving business owners of downtown on this call. We have people who have sweated and bled for downtown, and I want to recognize that. Folks like y'all are why downtown has survived today and why it's survived through COVID, as hard as that has been. And I really cannot imagine how hard it's been for a lot of y'all. But I know it's been a terrible summer. So we need to make sure that we include everyone to the best of our abilities. What I'm asking you for help on is making sure that we get everyone to the next meeting. So if you are looking around and wondering why somebody's not here, it's probably because I don't have a way of contacting them. So please help me out. I will make sure to get as many folks at this next meeting as we can. Same thing with recruiting the board. No one is intended to be excluded. And I want to make sure we get that word out as best we can. So please help me out. I'm only going to be as good of a communicator as I can communicate with y'all until I have a direct line of communication with a bigger crowd of folks. So thank you, Sugary. And I look forward to our next meeting, which we will begin with a roll call to recognize your stake in downtown and what you hope to bring to the group. And I think that would be a great way to start. It may take a while because we already had 29 people on this call today. But I think it'd be worth the time.
Yeah. Hey, Sai, question for you. Are you able to capture everyone today who's participated, maybe get their email and contact information and kind of their tie to downtown in an Excel spreadsheet?
Sure.
sort or of some sort. Doesn't have to be Excel. And
So I have their
one of
name
the
and
things-
contact already, and
Okay.
then if I'll do my best to represent their connection, unless and then I can communicate with all of them if they'd like to represent that themselves. I'll send an email out as to how they'd like. I mean, I know what businesses they may own or properties they may own, but beyond that, I think that they probably identify as having something more to offer than just that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that we like to capture, and really beginning today, day one, is we capture volunteer hours. And we recognize that if not for volunteers, this program throughout the state, throughout the nation, would not be as successful as it is. I'm not sure who asked, or maybe I imagine that I think you were asking about coordinators, successful coordinators for programs, but I look at towns that can communicate this program beyond our staff communicating. It's got to be you guys communicating the program. And I'll just showcase one of our communities, Cherryville, North Carolina. When they came in as a small town Main Street and then they moved up to Main Street, they really got so many volunteers behind them. It was more than the city pushing the program. It was probably the volunteers as much as anything. And they have done a tremendous job with that, but they have, so they've captured those volunteer hours. In North Carolina, I think that volunteer hour counts about almost $25 an hour. So if you think about your time and how much it means to this program, you could really, I think, knock it out of the ballpark as far as success. And the other, so capture that today, log in how, we've been on the phone for an hour and a half, how many hours you've already contributed, because I consider your time today volunteer time. And the other thing, aside for October 22nd, we plan to be back on board. Do not feel pressured to go ahead and have those folks named, because you really want to go through and be, very thoughtful in gathering your team together as far as I keep calling it core team or advisory panel. So you want to be very thoughtful and methodical as you gather that group together. If you were a person that says, hey, I'd like to participate, and then for whatever reason on the core team, and then for whatever reason, you may not get invited or selected, please know that you will be needed as a volunteer as either under one of the 4 points, or when we create the plan, we call them members of the strategic committee. So we really want to never exclude anyone. This is a public participation, very much public participation in this program.
There's something for everybody to do that wants to be involved, I promise.
Well,
absolutely.
So for everybody on the call, and I will send an email out to make sure that everyone gets the same information about the schedule. The November meeting, so the October meeting is the 22nd, 10/22. The November meeting is tentatively scheduled. Usually we'll be trying to shoot for the 3rd Thursday, but because of Thanksgiving, they've moved us up to the 12th, November 12th. So those are our next 2 meetings. Those 2 meetings will really only be 3 weeks apart. So they'll be almost back to back in terms of how local government moves. That's almost back to back. So
yes.
It's back to back how we usually move too, but since we're doing it this way, we like I said, we can squeeze more in and hopefully keep you guys closer to the schedule that we should all be on.
Chuck and I are really hoping that we can travel after the first of the year. We still may have to we know we're going to have to put safety measures in place, even if we are allowed to travel. But we are homebound right now. We're not being allowed to travel at all to our towns. But hopefully after the first of the year, we'll get some more guidance on that and how to proceed. But we would love to meet you all in person and see your faces and come and visit in your businesses. That's what we hope.
So this session has been recorded. Will it be posted so that we can share the posting or the recording with others?
Yes, sir. I'm going to speak with the IT director about trying to upload this to the YouTube channel. If that's not a possibility, it'll be available. It'll be available one way or the other. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, it's 10 o'clock. Anybody else have questions. We don't want to hold you over time. Chuck and I very much like to stay on time and stay on task, and just want to make sure though that anybody who has a question though, we get it answered. And you always can reach out to Chuck or me, privately if you want. We try to be very responsive to our emails.
Yep.
Well, thank you very, very much. Are there any further questions? As they pointed out, yes, Shagri.
It's more of a comment than a question. I just wanted to say thank you to the city and Sherry and Chuck again for making this a public presentation that A, people could join in directly, and then B, providing the fact that it might be available via link to the public. I feel like that's going to gain a lot of momentum from people that couldn't physically make it this morning, view it after dinner tonight, and jump on the train. So I just wanted to thank you for that opportunity to trying to make this as public as you can when we can't really gather. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Well, otherwise, I've already started drafting the agenda for the meeting on the 22nd, which is, we'll have to start off with a go around of introductions.
Sounds good.
Otherwise, I really appreciate everyone's time this morning, particularly for those who have businesses that are about to open right now. I know your time is precious, so I will let everybody go. And I just thank you again. And thank you for your time at the next meeting and any time you spend in between and recruiting other folks to be there. This is exciting.
Thanks, guys.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Have a great week.
Bye.
You too.